Hello Tech Time Travelers, and today we have got this unusual looking box, which is, I believe, a computer. This is the Memodyne Corporation M-80 cassette computer, and the best I can figure out about it is it's from roughly 1979. Okay, so the quick story on this is I saw this on eBay about a decade ago, and it came up and I saw a computer and I saw it looked really weird and cool, and I went, I gotta have that. I mean, look at this thing. It's just like a nice little lunchbox of computerness there. So I went for it, I got it for a song, and probably because there was a little bit of doubt as to what it was out there, because there's a lot of machines that are just dedicated tape drives that look just like this. And indeed, when I showed people this on VC Fed, that was the first thing that they thought it was just a digital recording system, nothing to do with a computer. But again, I kept looking at the word computer on the front there and thinking, I don't know, that kind of seems like it should be a computer. And you know, looking at the insides, we've got all the components for a computer. We've got a Z80 CPU, we've got a serial board, and yeah, we've got everything that you need, storage obviously, to have a computer. Anyway, we did a bunch more research, and somebody on VC Fed pulled up an article from a government website, and they showed this very computer being used for some sort of aeronautics project. It's basically a ruggedized computer from the 1970s, which was designed to go into really tough environments like aeronautics, you know, really dusty, nasty places that computers typically wouldn't survive in. So this is kind of like the Panasonic Toughbook of its time. And you can see the lid is like really, really tight. There's no ventilation holes anywhere on this thing. And that's, you know, to protect the internals. And then here's the insides. We've got the card cage with a few really small cards. This is the CPU card. This appears to be the serial board. And then these, I think, are related to the tape drive at the front there. And they're all plugged into a little back plane. And then you've got your power supply at the back there. I'll pull some of the boards out here. So this is the serial board. And we can see it's got a Z80 SIO chip there, and then a CTC down here. And we've got Motorola 1488 and 1489, which are typically used for serial communications. And you know, that's kind of the standard setup that I'm used to seeing with Z80 based computers that use serial terminals. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. And then we've got this board, which is the CPU board. And we can see we've got all the essentials for a computer. We've got the processor, we've got RAM up here, not very much, and we've got EEPROM sockets, and this one here says MP630801, Kelco 1200 baud, LOC 0000. And we've got a crystal. Yeah, so I mean, this has gotta be a computer, right? It's gotta be. But like I said, I tried working on this thing before and I could not get it to do anything. And I later got a breakout box, which I have over here, and I plugged it in and got absolutely nothing. And I just kind of gave up on it because there were other things that I wanted to play around with. You know, it's not like this is gonna play arcade games or anything. So I put it aside, but then I was doing another move just a couple days ago and I thought I should really take a look at this again. So what I did off camera before we even started was I pulled the CPU board and I took the ROM out and dumped that, and then I gave that to the folks on VC Fed to look at. And they couldn't discern a lot there. It didn't look like it had like a standard monitor where you could alter memory contents or anything like that. It seemed to be highly specialized, and there were some data in there that maybe might have not been good. So what we were hoping to find was, you know, like, can you press a key to bring this thing alive? Like, is there some trick to getting it to do something that we're not aware of? But nothing came up. So that's kind of where things sit. What I'm gonna do this time around is really try and figure out the lay of the land with this thing. You know, look at the power supplies, make sure that the fundamentals for that are working, that we've got correct-ish looking voltages. And then maybe have a look at the system itself here and see if there's anything wrong. One question that's been in my head as I'm looking at this is, are these cards in the right positions? I know for sure these ones are, because you can see there's a heat sink up there that these are kind of bolted into and they don't move. And they're definitely related to the cassette deck. This one here I'm not sure of. This is just the position it was in. And then the serial and the CPU board were just exactly as you see them here. I've put them back exactly the way they were in the photos I took when I got the machine. So yes, let's get started and let's see what we can do with this thing. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is just start with the basics. Obviously we'll plug it in and just see if by any miracle anything has changed and maybe it's deciding to work today. That's happened to me before when I've gone to record repair videos. So I've got her hooked up to this null modem cable, and then I've got my breakout box here. This was just configured this way for some other project. I think I'll just pull it out for now. So in theory, if this thing is doing anything whatsoever, when I press the power button, we should see some kind of light activity, particularly on the TX or maybe the RXD line as it's trying to send data out, depending on whether it expects a null modem cable or not. So we'll just turn it on here. And we got nothing. So yeah, nothing's changed. So the first thing I'm gonna do is check out the power supply, because a lot of times I've gone off on the wrong track by just assuming that the power supply is working because the computer turns on and thinking the problem is with the computer, when in fact the power supply was always the issue. So I've got my multimeter here. We're just gonna do some quick tests. I don't know what the outputs of these are because they're not labeled for voltage, but I'm gonna guess that, you know, this is a Z80 based computer from the late 70s. So probably you're gonna have plus 5 volts DC, probably you're gonna have plus 12 and minus 12 for the serial communications. So I should be able to figure out what's going on here. All right, so I've got our multimeter set up. We're gonna turn this on and I'll straighten out these frickin' probe wires that are always getting tangled up. And okay, so we're gonna ground there. We're on DC, let's see what we get. All right, so that's plus 5 volts. Dang, that's right on the nose. That's nothing. That could be a ground. I see the wire kind of going back. It looks like it goes to that common port there, which is kind of like a ground, I think. Okay, and then we'll check. It looks like there's one other post here. Oops, that could have been bad. Yeah, that's plus 12 volts. And then what have we got over here? Minus 12. Yeah, it's a little tiny bit over spec, but it's definitely pumping out voltages that I would tend to expect. The date code in the bottom there is 29/1978. So yeah, I think we were getting away at that point from power supplies with voltages like 8 volts and 10 volts like you had in the S100 systems. So yeah, I kind of think that means that the power supply is good. So we could move on from there. Okay, so now that I've vetted the power supply, I'm gonna pull the cards out here just to see what we've got going on. So again, this is the serial board. And yeah, that's basically the Z80 serial controller chip. And then we've got our two, I forget the exact name for these right off the top of my head, but they're used for driving the signal out and in. And I think they're used for like amplifying the signal or something like that. And then we have our CPU board here. It's a very well-built system. It definitely feels like a quality item. And there is the CPU board, and you can see everything I showed you earlier. Okay, so now here's what I'm kind of interested in. You can see there's 4 slots. They're divided by this black metal wall here, and then we've got 3 more slots with these cards in them. So I'm thinking this side is the computer and this side is the cassette equipment. Now, before when I was messing around with this, I just assumed that these slots were all wired the same way. But when I'm looking very closely at the 4th slot there, you can see the traces bending up and going to different pins. So that's got me a little bit suspicious. Why is that one slot different? And being that I can follow these traces pretty easily with my eye, I can see they're basically coming from the power connector. That means that the voltages are different on this slot versus the other 3. So why is that? And if I had to lay a bet, I would say it's not the CPU card that goes in this special slot, because the voltages for this, I think, are just bog standard 5 volts. I don't think there's really anything special going on there. I think it would be this card, right? So I'm just looking at these two cards together here, and just superficially, they do look slightly different. We know that the power pins on the first 3 slots are down on the bottom right side. So like this card, you can tell it's got a connection there. This is like pin 71. And yeah, that goes up to a big thick trace there, which is, yeah, that'd be the 5 volt line for sure, because I recognize those chips. Whereas this one doesn't have that. That's odd, right? You would think the 5 volt would be active there, because it does have some parts on it that need 5 volts. So that's got me wondering, is something different about this card versus this one? So I think the first thing that we should do is try to figure out what the pins on this slot connect to or correspond to up here. Okay, so I've got this kind of set up here. Hopefully you can see everything I'm doing. So I've got my multimeter set in resistance mode, and we're just gonna check the first few slots here just to verify that they connect to what I think they are. So my thesis is the pin down here is pin 71. On each one of these, this should be connected to 5 volts. So let's see what we get. Yeah, 100% that's 5 volts. All right, now let's check on this slot here, which is the kind of unknown. Let's see what we get there. Okay, so we're getting some resistance. So that is not, I'll just connect pin 71 in this slot to pin 71 on this one. Yeah, no, there's resistance there, so they're not the same. Okay, so that's interesting. Where does plus 12 volts end up on these? I'm sorry if my hands are blocking the view here. Yeah, I think that's pin 12 there. And what is pin 12 on this one? So that's 12 volts there. What is 12 volts on this one? Yeah, there's a tiny bit of resistance there. Doesn't seem to be 12 volts there. Just checking these pins, trying to see if I can follow where it is. So are these electrically connected? That would be pin 69. Does seem like they're connected. So they are slightly different. Pin 5 I don't think is shared between slot 4, we'll call it, and slot 1 through 3. Yeah, on the serial card we can see here that the pin 71, which should be 5 volts, plus 5 volts, is not connected to anything on either side. So that begs the question, what pin does carry 5 volts? Because some of these parts are definitely 5 volts. That's 138A, comes over here, and I can't see where that's going, so that's pretty useless. This 174 should come down. Yeah, looks like it's coming down to, what is that, 71, 69, 67, 65, 63. That's what that looks like it comes down to. So let's see if pin 63 on this slot connects to 5 volts here. So that is 71, 69, 67, 65, 63. Aha! Okay, that's interesting. Let's see, what other pin can we use to orient ourselves? This MC1488 has a pin 1, which is VEE, that's the negative voltage, and that can be up to negative 15 volts. So if we follow that, we should see the minus 12 volt connection. I'm pretty sure it's going to be minus 12 volts because that's what it almost always is with these sorts of designs. Okay. So it looks like VEE, which is pin 1, comes down here and lands on the edge connector at pin 71, 69, 67, 65. So that's the 4th pin over. So let's see if negative 12, and I believe this was the negative, comes to the 4th pin there. Let's see what we got. I'm sorry if my hands are getting in the way. Yep, that is directly connected to that. Now here's the tell. Does negative 12 connect to pin 4 on these other slots? And the answer is no, it doesn't. I'm checking that. I'm going back over here. Okay. I think that's what's going on, at least for that. So that's exciting. That means maybe I was just being a little too reliant on the original owner. Maybe they took these boards out and just restuffed them somewhere because they couldn't figure out how the thing worked. I'm hoping that there won't be any damage to these cards if that's the case, because obviously this one was plugged into the wrong slot, right? There's plus 5 volts going to pin 71, and pin 71 on this one does not have a connection to anything. This is where I kind of wish they would just key these things like some manufacturers do, so that there's no way you could put them in the wrong way. But it does kind of look like it may not be possible to plug the wrong thing in there. Oh, maybe it is. Yeah, so I'm hoping this card isn't fried. It looks to me like it probably wouldn't be affected by having the wrong pins connected. You wouldn't want voltage going straight to like an output or something. It looks like it's one of those situations where if you plug it into the wrong slot, like one of these 3, it's not going to hurt you. Yeah, like I said, I got the machine this way. I just assumed this card should be in that slot, but maybe it actually belongs in this one, and that's why we're not seeing anything when we turn the computer on. So, assuming that, and knowing that on this one, pin 5 is indeed the VCC pin, and we know we've got 5 volts on pin 71 here, I think it's safe to say these 3 are the same. We should be safe to plug the CPU card into this slot, or really into any of them, any of the first 3. And then this needs to go like so. Now the only mystery card here is this one. I don't know what this card is. I think it's related to the tape equipment, but I'm not sure. Pin 71 there kind of goes to a random place. I think this might be a tape encoding board or something like that. It doesn't really say. So, I don't know, I'm just gonna have to leave that one because I really don't know where that belongs. Okay, so that's all good. I think we should just hook up the breakout box again and see what we get. Okay, so I got my breakout box. We've got everything plugged in the way I think it should be now. So let's see what we get on camera here when we power this thing up. Nada. Oh, no, it did blink. It blinked. There was something there. Let's try that again. Okay, we're definitely on. Let's try and reset to see if that does anything. That's plugged in correctly. That's plugged in correctly. Let me just see. I'm just gonna move this out of the way for a sec. I just want to see if there's any kind of activity going on there. Yeah, no, there's definitely some blinking happening. And it happens again when I unplug. That's the most I've gotten out of it in a while. Now that's not really anything definitive. I guess it'd be worth it to try and hook up my computer and just see if anything's happening. It could be waiting on a key press or something. I'm not sure. So maybe we'll try that. Okay, so we're all set up here. The machine I'm going to be using for trying to establish a serial connection with this M80 cassette computer is my ThinkPad 380XD. I've also set up the serial breakout box on the back there so that we can see if there's anything trying to go back and forth between these two devices. And yeah, maybe I'll just turn the computer on and see if having it connected to something changed anything. So we'll just power up. And you do see a very brief blinking light there. And again, as I turn it off, we see a bunch pop up. So it's kind of like it's trying to do something, but I don't know if it's actually doing anything useful there. Let's power it up again and power it off. It was not doing anything before when I tried to use this thing previously, so this is good. This is a good outcome. So let's see, we'll open up Hyperterminal here. Now I'm totally guessing based on the label on the EEPROM that it's 1200 baud, so hopefully I'm right on that. It doesn't give any other particulars for communications, how many bits, how many stop bits. But given that this is late 70s and things are starting to kind of standardize, I'm going to guess it's probably 8-bit and 1 stop bit. And we'll just wait for this thing to come up. And on this machine, the serial port is COM2 for some reason. I'm not really sure why. And we'll set it to 1200. And data bits are 8, stop bits are 1. I don't know about flow control or anything, so we'll just have to see where we end up. Okay, so there's our terminal window. Let's see if it does anything at all. Nothing. No, doesn't even react. Okay, now just out of curiosity, in case I'm wrong about the speed, I'm going to close this and we'll set it to a lower baud rate, just as an experiment. I'm sure nothing's going to happen, but you never know. No, 0. Is there anything happening on the connector? Well, we can see 2 lights are lit up there. Looks like RTS and DTR. That's definitely the laptop doing that. But no, we're not getting anything there. Okay, so then the next thing I can try, I'm going to use these wires, and I believe for the laptop to be able to send, I need to cross CTS and RTS. Clear to send and ready to send, I think. So I've got those crossed. The ThinkPad should be able to send characters now. I'll just press a couple keys just to verify. And yep, TXD is lighting up. All right, so let's see if maybe we can get a response. I'm gonna turn on the caps lock here because I'm betting this computer doesn't recognize lowercase characters. And then we'll turn her on. No, we're not seeing anything. Reset, nothing. Okay, let's try hitting. I'm just gonna go one at a time and see if anything draws a response. Is there some kind of prompt it's waiting on? No. Absolutely bupkis. Okay. Now, I was making an assumption that it needs a null modem cable to operate. Maybe it doesn't. So maybe what we need to do is we'll turn off RX and TX and we'll cross them over here from one to the other, just in case this is expecting just a regular serial / modem cable and not something that's got a crossover in it. Or TX in with RX. I'm just going to see if anything changes before we get too invested in this strategy. Okay, I'm going to turn it on. Anything happen? Nope. Now, I've been making some assumptions. One is that this thing needs a null modem cable, and the second is that the J1 port on the back is the primary serial communications port. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's J2, which is female, and we have an adapter for that. certainly worth a try. All right, so I'm connected to a different port, which is J2 on the back there. So we'll see if anything happens this time. Oh, okay, something lit up there. DCD lit up, but we're not seeing any action. Zero, okay. Okay, so one thing I'm going to try is swapping the MC1488 here, just because it's socketed and I can do it. I found that particular chip tends to come up dead a lot in machines that I'm trying to fix. So I've got a good stock of them, so it's no big deal to just swap it out there. I'm just curious if it'll change anything before I break out the scope. So we'll just plug that in there. And back into our slot. Okay, let's just see if anything happens on the breakout box. Nothing. Oh, okay, that's different. That's different. Reset. Gone. Huh. Now, one thing I didn't think about was, I haven't bothered putting a tape in here because I've been so focused just on the computer, but maybe I should try putting a tape in the drive and we'll see if anything happens. I think I got a tape around here. Okay, there's one. This looks sufficiently garbagey. I don't know what sparkle is, but yeah, I'll put it in here. I'm just curious to see what it does now that we're getting lights on there. Is it going to try to do anything? So I'll hit power and reset. Oh, oh, okay. You saw that, the tape actually moved. That's the first time I've ever seen this thing actually do something. But yeah, then it goes off into space. This button's kind of sticky. It's not helping matters. Okay, plug in, reset. Nope, nothing. It seems to be very random. Like it's sort of working for a second and then it just bombs out. Nothing. Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of feeling like a RAM problem of some sort. You can see like it's sometimes trying to do something. Whoop. Yep, see, there you go. It just started. It's turned into a Coleco atom. I don't know if it's going to stop. What's going to happen there? Ooh, that doesn't sound good. Okay, well that, yeah, that worked, I guess. Well, that tape is loud. Let's just see if I flip it around here and hit reset again. Nada. Yeah, see, it's completely random how it operates, which doesn't make sense to me. So I'm thinking we might have a problem with the computer board, as I refer to it, where it's just not consistently coming up properly or it's getting bad data or something. Honestly, this is feeling, and this is just based on absolutely no concrete evidence whatsoever, but I feel like it's something to do potentially with the RAM. I've often seen old machines like this do really bizarre things when there's bad memory, and it's very random. So, you know, depending on what state the chip is in or what it tries to write to when it starts up, sometimes you'll get some weird behavior like that. So I think what I'm gonna do is we'll try swapping the RAM on the CPU card here, and we'll just see if that makes any difference, because that's an easy thing we can do. There's a lot of people in this hobby that kind of frown on the whole idea of shotgunning problems, but my view is sometimes it can pay off, because especially if things are socketed, and you've got replacement chips, it's easy enough to just try swapping things before you break out the scope and drive yourself crazy. So we'll pull out one at a time here, and then I'll go find a source of, what are these? These are 91 14s, which are 2114s. I know for sure I've got those. Okay, so I've got a stock of 2114s. I've got a couple of these Digital Research Corporation memory boards for my Southwest Technical Product systems. These used 2114s, which are totally compatible with the 9114s, I believe. Basically the same chips, different manufacturer. So what we'll do is we'll borrow from one of these because I'm pretty sure this board is fully working. I've vetted these before, so unless something's changed in the last year or so. I'm starting to sound like that guy that's selling a car and it's like, yeah, no, it ran when I parked it like 4 years ago, but usually these 2114s I haven't had too much trouble with. So we'll just pull one off and I'll try swapping one at a time here just to see if anything changes. And yeah, that's going down that way. Okay, so that is swapped. Let's see if we get a different result. Okay, so here we go, testing with one memory chip swapped. Nope, that seems to have gotten worse. Okay, so let's pull this out again, and I'll just try swapping this one out and putting the original that was on this side back in. And then we'll just plug it back in there and see what happens. Okay, here we go. Oh, okay, that's different. And it's consistently resetting. So what lights are those? That is DCD, data carrier detect, I think. DSR, data set ready, and CTS, which is something terminals clear to send, I think. Okay, that is different. Wow, okay, so let's, I'm just gonna change the other chip here, and the reason I'm doing that is just to observe if things change again. You know, just to make sure that I haven't swapped one bad chip with another and created a situation where it's sort of partially working, but in a different way. Okay, so I'll just plug this guy in. My rule of thumb is if it behaves consistently the same way each time, then either all the chips that you're using are dead or you've solved a potential memory problem. And a memory problem in something this old would not be unexpected. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, so that's consistently doing the same thing. Isn't that interesting? Well, you know what we gotta do next? We're gonna fire up the laptop again here and we're gonna see if anything is happening. Okay, so we're just getting the ThinkPad back online here. Now, I don't know exactly, again, what baud rate I should be working at. I'm not even 100% sure as I sit here right now that this thing's gonna have any kind of human interface for me to talk to. I did consult the old posts on VCFed when we were talking about this machine a while back, and one of the posters there, named Durgadas311, I hope I pronounced that right, he took a look at the ROM code and said pretty much the only keys that this thing responds to are about 6 or 7. They're basically all control keys like Control S, Control R, Control P, Control H, Control T, and so on. And my guess on that is they're probably being used to control the tape deck. And so that's leading me to the impression that the computer that's in there is very, very stripped down. It's very basic, and it's not going to do anything super fancy for us here. But you know what, if we can get it to a point where it's at least functional and we can make it do something, then to me that's a victory. Memodyne did offer RAM expansion boards, and there is an extra slot for ROM, so you could potentially set this up as a full-blown computer. They say so in their documentation. But yeah, let's try and blaze it up here. I don't know, I'll call it whatever. I'll just set up the laptop. Okay, I'm just gonna go with 1200 baud because I really don't know, what it's actually doing here. Now in the documentation, they mentioned that the data bit should be set to 7. So I'm just going to follow that. That was for a slightly different machine, so who knows if this is really accurate. But this was in documentation for some kind of government project or something, or an academic project, where they used one of these in conjunction with another computer, and they described, which port to hook it up to. They said J1, and then they also laid out sort of some of the communications parameters. So hopefully this one is set up similarly. I'm going with 1200 baud only because it says 1200 baud on the label for the EEPROM, and I'm thinking that that's probably what that's referring to. So we'll go with 1200 baud. Okay, and we can see on the breakout box, we've got a couple lights active. So that's the laptop, it's waiting for something to talk to. So now we're going to press power on the M80. Okay, and we've got nothing there yet. And then I'm going to hit reset. Okay, now we've got a bunch of things lit up here. And we also got this little symbol. Actually, I probably should have caps lock on there. I'm just going to hit one key at a time. And I can see for sure it's trying to send something out there on the TX light. But yeah, no response at all from the computer. Well, let's try some random keys and see if we get anything. Here's Control Q. Oh, okay. I don't know if you saw that, but the tape deck actually moved. Oh, what's going on here? Okay, it's trying to move, but I think because the tape is already pulled all the way to one end, it's not going to go anywhere. So let's try switching sides. And what happens if I hit Control Q again? It's working. Oh my goodness. This is the most I've seen this thing do, like, ever. Okay. If I just mash Control Q, it'll just do that. Huh. So let's try Control H. What does that do? Nothing. No response whatsoever. Okay. What does Control P do? Absolutely nothing. Okay. Perhaps we're not fully working. What else have we got? Control Q, we know. So that's working. More or less. Yeah, I'm not sure what these other ones do. Don't seem to be doing anything. Okay, Control T. What does Control T do? Nothing. And then lastly, Control R. Oh, okay. Oh, now Control Q has stopped working. Okay, this doesn't seem to be doing anything now. We seem to have something strange going on here. It's just like roaring forward. Can I stop it? Oh, okay, let's just reset. I don't know what I did there. It just suddenly started going off. I think I hit Control R. It's all frozen up. Okay, I think I hit Control R, produces that character, and then I just sort of started hitting keys at random. See, it's moving every now and again as I type. And now it seems to be, it's not really moving, it's just stuck. Okay, let's see if I can take control here. No, I don't know what it's doing. Okay. Control R again. Well, that's more than I've seen it do the entire time I've owned it, but I don't know what's going on there. Does Control Q still work? Yeah, that works. I was trying different key combinations to see what happens. I feel like let's stop that for a sec. Control R. Nope, nothing. Nothing again. And we're getting random characters, but we're not getting any. It just seems to be randomly doing stuff with the tape. Yeah, I don't know if there should be any kind of like prompt or anything there. I wonder what the breakout box is doing. Okay, so let's do Control Q. And we'll do Control R. And I'll just start randomly typing things again. And it just runs endlessly. And nothing seems to stop it. Nope, that's that. Weird. It's kind of making me wonder, like, do I have the right port or not? We should try the other port. I was reading the post on VCFET again, and the fellow that posted the control key suggestion also mentioned that there were essentially like two, he didn't use the word ports, but two channels. And he said channel B is the one that's kind of set up for sending and receiving from a computer, he thought. And the other one might have been just for recording data or talking to some other peripheral. So I'm thinking maybe we've got the wrong port, but that's easy enough to fix. I can just disconnect the null modem cable that I've got going to J1, and then I will connect this one, which is going to J2. Now let's see if I reset. What happens if I do a Control Q? Nothing. Okay, so it doesn't respond at all to anything that's on that port. So this is connected to J2 on the back of the Memodyne. I've got J1 connected back up to the laptop again. I'll just confirm that that's working again. I gotta do a reset. Yeah, well, it seems to be responding to Control Q. So what I'm curious about is there any sort of data that is being sent out or received on J2? So let's see what happens when I hit Control Q and see if there's anything that's coming up on this thing. No. Okay, so let's try Control R. Okay, that's interesting. It's like it sent out something. I'm just gonna start typing. No, doesn't seem to be sending anything out. This is very odd. I feel like the Control R might be the like a record mode or something. As I'm typing, it's basically just adding stuff to the tape as I go. I can't explain why it was going crazy earlier, but well, that's interesting. So if I hit Control Q, I hit Control R once and something goes out, but nothing actually happens otherwise. Yeah, this is interesting. It's hard to know because you've got two serial ports and one of them presumably is being used to communicate with a computer or terminal, and the other one I would assume is being used with some other peripheral like a printer or something along those lines. So it's making me wonder what it's sending out onto this particular pin here when I put it into this Control R mode. But beyond that, it doesn't send anything else out. So let's try the other keys and just see what they do. So we know Control Q doesn't really do anything. Control R does. Control T, does that send out anything? Nope. H, S, M, nothing. Huh. Okay, so I've just moved the camera here because I'm kind of coming up with an idea to test and see if this thing is actually putting anything on the tape. It's kind of the last thing I think I can do in the absence of having a manual to really understand what's going on here. I don't think the machine is broken anymore. I think it's actually trying to do something, and I think the computer part of it anyway is doing its part. It's consistently responding to the specific commands that fellow on VCFed identified in the ROM as being acceptable. So I think we can rule out the computer for now as a potential problem, unless maybe there's something weird going on with the serial board where the outgoing communications are okay, but the incoming aren't. That could be something I might need to check out. But I just want to see if we're actually getting any kind of valid data from this thing going on to tape here. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rewind the tape. I'm going to record, you know, maybe 30 seconds over top of whatever's there. And then we'll put it into the Memodyne and I'll just try the Control R mode there and just randomly typing stuff. And we'll see if it records anything over it. I'm assuming whatever it is, we'll hear something. Okay, so let's just do, and we'll just make sure. Da 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 da. Okay, well, it's kind of working, kind of not. Okay, so I'm going to put the tape in here. Okay, and we're going to turn the computer on, reset, and we're going to hit Control R, and now I'm just going to start typing stuff. Oh, and yeah, we've hit the limit. Okay, so let's remove the tape. Let's power that down. And now we'll put this in our recorder. Let's go back just a little bit and let's see what we got. Well, I think it's recording something, but yeah, I don't know what that was. Okay, I'm curious. The 404 board here is referred to as a phase encoded board in the Memodyne literature. I don't know exactly what it does or if it's required. I don't know if it's in the right slot. I think it is, because I've traced the power pins out and they're not the same as the CPU, and they definitely don't fit where the serial card is. So I'm going to take it out. I'm just curious what the machine does if it doesn't have the encoder board in there. This is kind of my process. It's not really a scientific process. It's just kind of fiddling around and seeing how the thing reacts with different components removed or in place. Okay, so here we go. Turn the machine on, reset, and does Control Q still work? Yes, it does. How about Control S? What does that do? Nothing. Control T, nothing. Control P, nothing. Control R. Oh, that's interesting. I can just type endlessly and it's just going to continuously. Okay, well, that's what that does. Doesn't do much more than that, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so that board definitely has some effect, although I don't know exactly what. So Control Q is working. I'll go back to Control R. Yeah, so it's back to just occasionally. Huh, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting just kind of seeing how it reacts with different parts connected or removed. I even went so far as to remove the ROM because I wanted to see, you know, if the machine carried on doing random stuff like what I was doing here, or if it went completely dead. It did go completely dead, so that gives me confidence that the computer part of the M-80 cassette computer is actually doing something. I don't know exactly what it's doing. I think it's trying to encode stuff to tape, and maybe some of the tape drive components aren't right, or it's not really understanding what's coming from this terminal because perhaps it's not set up to actually work with a terminal. It's basically just using the computer in there to control the tape drive based on some kind of pre-programmed situation in ROM there, and it's just expecting you to hook up a device and away you go. You know, honestly, I'm kind of thrilled that it's doing something, because this is the most I've seen it do in the entire time I've had it. And it's kind of cool to think that I could potentially expand it into an actual computer if I wanted to, and who knows, I might do that. Or, you know, maybe someday I'll find some use for the recording functions from some other device that I have. Anyway, I think that's about as far as I can go with this for now. This is a minor victory, and I'm going to take it. And I feel like I have kind of a rough idea now of what this thing does, what its capabilities are, and I'll just keep looking around and hoping a manual or something turns up one day, and maybe that will give me a little bit more insight. I will post the ROM code for anyone who wants to you know, disassemble it and see if they can figure out more about what it does. And yeah, I welcome any findings in the comments. If any of you have had an experience with one of these in the past, by all means, drop a comment as well. But that's pretty much it. If you liked this video, you know, you can hit that like button. If you didn't, smack the dislike. And if you're interested in supporting the channel and helping repair machines like this, I welcome you to join my Patreon. I do offer some patron exclusive content there, including long form videos and stuff like that. Other than that, yeah, we will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.